Welcome to NIE ICMR and WHO online course for Ethics Committee. In this session, I will be giving you a brief overview of National Ethical Guidelines for Biomedical Research involving children. The key objective of this session is to recognize the key elements of National Ethical Guidelines for conducting research involving children. First of all, I think it is important to understand why research is necessary in children. It is important to include children in clinical research, including clinical trial, to give them the benefit of research, any new therapeutic intervention for improving their health condition as soon as possible. In the era of evidence-based medicine, it is important to conduct robust and ethical research to give benefit to the children of newer interventions to improve the health outcome of children. As you know, any research finding that was carried out in adults cannot be extrapolated in children. As children are unique biologically, physiology of children is also different from adults. Pathophysiology, pharmacokinetics and toxicity profile of drugs varies with growth and maturation. You know, the children metabolize drug very fast, so we have to give larger doses of drugs. And also tetracycline could be safe in adults, but it leaves marks in the teeth of children. Similarly, aspirin can be given to adults, but not in children because it causes Reye syndrome. So, this highlights the need for research in children. And also there has to be appropriate delivery of vehicles and formulations that are needed for children. And again, some diseases affect only children like birth asphyxia and congenital biliary atresia, neonatal hyperbilirubinemia, hyaline membrane disease. These are seen only in children, not in adults. But research, biomedical research in children could be challenging also, because many diseases in children may be rare, and there is ethical concern because unlike adults, children are not able to make autonomous decision for participation in research, which puts them in a risk of coercion and also induce risk. And so that is how there is inherent vulnerability. When we do research in children, we need to also take into consideration socio-cultural needs and familial and parental perspectives. So, we also need to give consideration to the procedures and the settings when we conduct research in children. And many a times pharmaceutical companies think that the drug and the treatment, pediatric drug and the treatment is market for these things is small for children when we compare to the adults. In view of the aforesaid reasons, it was strongly felt there is a need for having a clear set of guidelines for ethical conduct of research in children as a subset of the main ethical guidelines, which was published way back in 1990 and has undergone several revisions, the final one in 2017. However, these guidelines do have a small section for research in children, but the important considerations that needs to be considered while conducting research in children has been dwelt in larger extent in this subset of the guidelines. So, a core committee, just to brief you, give you a brief overview how this guideline was developed. A core committee was constituted under ICMR Center for Advanced Research on Newborn Health at All India Institute of Medical Research, which included members of bioethics committees who reviewed the available national and international guidelines, including MRC guidelines, European Commission guidelines, and they were adapted to Indian context. Then several rounds of expert group meetings were held who reviewed the guidelines to internalize it to Indian context. These members consisted of pediatricians, neonatologists, public health experts, experts from the field of community medicine, social scientists, community representative, members from CDSCO and also legal experts, and consensus was developed and the guidelines was finally put up on the ICMR website to invite comments. All these comments received were incorporated in finalizing these guidelines. Finally, these guidelines were released on 12th of October at ICMR by the Minister of Health, Naddaji, and State Minister of Health, Sri Anupriya Patel ji. So, this guidelines covers the ethical and legal issues that researchers and the ethics committee has to consider, the researchers while conducting the research and ethics committee while reviewing any research related to children. However, these guidelines needs to be used in conjunction with the current national ethical guidelines for biomedical research involving human participants. These guidelines, as I said, is meant for researcher ethics committees and other stakeholders, and they are the subserving to the Constitution of India. And for all regulatory trial under the Drug and Cosmetic Act, the rules and amendments should be also followed. So, I think it is also important to understand what is clinical trial and what is new drug. Clinical trial is the systematic study of new drug in human subject to generate safety and efficacy data of new drugs, devices and biologicals. And the new drug as defined in the drug and cosmetic rules includes bulk drug substance which has not been used in the country to any significant extent under the conditions prescribed, recommended or suggested in the labeling thereof, and has not been recognized as effective and safe by the licensing authorities mentioned under Rule 21 for the proposed claims. New drug also means already approved drug proposed now with a new claim. So, fixed dose combination of two or more individually approved drugs when it is meant for certain other claims also constitute a new drug. So, no clinical trial for new drug shall be conducted without approval of Drug Controller General of India as per Rule 122 DA of under Drug and Cosmetic Act. The only exception to this rule is academic research, where no permission for conduct of clinical trial intended for academic purpose in respect of approved drug formulation shall be required for any new indication or new routes of administration or new dose or new dosage form where the trial is approved by the ethics committee, and it is the data generated is not intended for submitting to the licensing authority. Now, coming to the general guidelines for research in children, I think this is same for research in any human participant. The research proposal has to be scientifically sound, and there should be a pediatrician or neonatologist in the team of investigators. And the research should have benefit to the children in general and to the individual child in particular. The research should also consider unique physiology, anatomy, psychology, pharmacology, social situation and special needs of children and their families, and research must also be conducted in a child friendly environment, and any drug that is to be tested in a child should have been tested, evaluated in adults before. However, there are some exception also to this situations, like in which no prior adult studies is needed, like surfactant use in hyaline membrane disease in respiratory syndrome. These conditions are unique only to the newborns. Any research that is conducted entails some benefit and also some risk to the participant. So, there has to be a equipoise between benefit and risk to the extent researchers should try to ensure that the balance is maintained. So, what is risk? Risk refers to potential harm that can occur to the child as a direct or indirect consequence of the research procedure. It could be physical, like from pinprick, the pain, psychological or social, that is like missing school for participating in the research. So, but the categorization of risk may vary from child to child and from situation to situation. The risk can be classified into less than minimal risk, where the probability of harm or discomfort in research is nil or not expected. Minimal risk, the anticipated harm is greater than those ordinarily expected. Minor increase over minimal risk or low risk, and more than the minimal or high risk, which includes like lung puncture or biopsies, etc. To the extent possible, the pain, distress and fear that is involved in research should be minimized, and there has to be appropriate measures to be taken while collecting samples, like for example, quantity, frequency, and they should be optimized as much as possible. And for child patients, I think it is important to include pediatric formulations. The other important issue is consent and assent. So, what is consent? So, consent is the voluntary agreement to participation in research, understanding with proper understanding of the subject with the information that is provided to the participant. But children lack the intellectual capacity to take decision for participation is in research. So, the authority to allow child's participation in research rests on the parent or a legally acceptable authorized representative, as the case may be. So, a legally acceptable authorized representative is an individual or judicial or other body authorized under applicable law to consent on behalf of a prospective participant to participate in research or to undergo diagnostic, therapeutic or preventive procedures as per research protocol. However, the parental and LAR permission for the child's participation in research should be considered as per the CDSO guideline, the what we call the parental LAR permission for participation in research is consent, and also the child's agreement to participate in research is assent. However, merely not being able to refuse agreement should not be considered as assent. The essential elements of informed consent, which is given in details in the main ethical guidelines, but I would just like to touch upon the key points that the consent form, the informed consent form should provide information that this statement that it is a research and the purpose and the method and the duration of the study, number of participants to be enrolled and how frequently they will be contacted, how the data will be collected, how samples will be collected. All the methods has to be described in detail, and the benefits that are going to be there for participation in research, any foreseeable risk, any discomfort arising for participation in the research, and also how the confidentiality will be maintained, and voluntariness that anytime if they want to, they can withdraw themselves from the study, and whom to contact if they have any questions, and there has to be mention about how compensation for participation in research or for any injury or any harms will be taken care of, and the details of the investigators should be provided in the informed consent form. So, how do we take consent from the illiterate parents or legally authorized representative? When a parent are illiterate, verbal or oral consent can be taken with approval of ethics committee in the presence of an impartial witness. It can be documented through audio or video recording of the participant, and the PI and the partial witness should also be captured in the frame. In many situations, there could be like when we may have to take re-consent, that is during the course of the study, if new informations are generated or become available, which requires amendment in the protocol, and when the research is done in a subconscious or unconscious patient and who gain consciousness and is competent to understand the study now, and when the research has to be extended or long term follow up is required, or when the child becomes 18 years old or the LAR has to be changed, or if there is any possibility of disclosure of information, or if there is possibility of future research on stored sample, then if not anonymized, then we have to take re-consent. And when do we consider waiver of consent? When research involves not more than minimal risk and participants and researcher do not come in contact, and in emergency situation, and when confidentiality has to be maintained throughout the study period, for example, in HIV/AIDS related studies, and when conducting research on publicly available information and research on biological anonymized biological samples or leftover samples, or in case of retrospective studies where participants are de-identified, in such situation the consent can be waived off. Coming to assent, which is child's agreement to participate in the research, the assent process should also take into consideration the child's developmental level and capability of understanding cultural and social factors. The method of assent include, like for a child less than 7 years, we have to take parental consent, and for a child of 7 to 11 years, oral assent in presence of parent or legally acceptable authorized representative, and for children 12 to 18 years of age, written assent has to be obtained. So, like the consent form, even the assent form should have all information, critical information inbuilt, like the study, the purpose of the study and how it is going to help, what will happen to the child and when, and what is the extent of discomfort and how it will be, if there is any, and how the measures will be taken to minimize it, and who will be responsible to answer child's questions if any, and that it should also have for an option for the child to say no whenever they want to. Waiver of assent can be considered when the research has potential or direct benefit to the child, and the research involves children with mental retardation and other developmental disabilities. This guideline also talks about the safeguard systems and compensation, which are provided much more in detail in the main ethical guidelines. The ethics committee plays a key role in this, and the composition of ethics committee and the roles and responsibilities are provided in the main ethical guideline, which the reader has to refer to them in main ethical guidelines. In the ethics committee, I think it is important that there has to be a member of the either a pediatrician or a neonatologist. If they are not a permanent member, but while reviewing such proposal, a member from the respective field should be co-opted. The ethics committee will have to review and consider the scientific validity, whether benefits and risks are given equal importance, and how the safety of the participants are ensured, and the autonomy, confidentiality and voluntariness, whether they are being considered or not, and also the experience of the investigators and the research settings. All this will have to be looked carefully by the members of the ethics committee while reviewing the proposal. For research that involves some risk or has to ensure some safety to the participants, then ethics committee may recommend constituting a separate data and safety monitoring board for monitoring the safety of the participants. This guidelines also talks about the data protection and confidentiality, and for biobanking samples, the detailed guidelines and for international collaborations are there in the main ethical guidelines, which needs to be considered for any such research proposals. The compensation mechanism has to be also built in the proposal, like there could be loss of wages and also the travel expenses has to be reimbursed to the participants, and there has to be also provision for financial or other assistance for temporary and permanent disability resulting from participation in the research. This should be all built in the proposal, and these are important things which the ethics committee has to be looking for while reviewing research proposals. And in case of death, the parents has to be entitled with compensation. I think these are some of the key issues for safeguarding participants of research, and which really ethics committee should ensure that all safety measures are built in the research proposal. This guideline also talks about research in special situations like for neonates, HIV positive children, genetic research, vaccine related research, school based research, internet based research, community based research. However, for all this research, general ethical principles remain the same. I would like to end here, and for the detailed guideline, you can refer to ICMR website. This is a freely downloadable guideline. The website is here. I hope you find this session useful, and thank you so much.